good morning, and welcome to Gardening with Daddy Pete. I'm Melvin York.
And I am Jay York.
We do thank you for being with us on another episode this week. I think we have talked and had some questions on people saying now that the garden's starting to come in and you're using those good heirloom or open pollinated plants, vegetables, herbs. Can I save the seed?
Yep. And don't forget, before we get too deep into saving seeds, like, subscribe, check us out on Podbean, visit our website at www.daddypetes.com. There you will find our podcast archives, all of our gardening blog tips from years past and the current one. Sign up for current email newsletter, all that good stuff too. And you can check out our products, where to buy Daddy Pete's products, and all of that good stuff too.
Yeah, and another thing, while you're on the website there at daddypetes.com, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, put your email address in there. The first of every month, you will get our gardening tips. You can also, it will give you a link to go to our podcast. It's archived, or, you can see it on YouTube or one of the different entities that Jay has mentioned. Before that, whether it be Podbean, etc., whatever. Do that. Also, if you take time and you can scroll through, look at our products, look at our about, and also look at our history. See how long we've been hanging around. Actually, the farm here at Daddy Pete's has been here since 1907. We're a 100-plus-year-old farm. And, of course, naturally, we do carry the title, and we was awarded that of a century farm in North Carolina, and we're proud of that. And so just look around our page and see what you got. So we're talking today about saving seeds. We've had a lot of questions about that. Now, when it comes to saving seeds, make sure that the plants that you're saving the seed from are open pollinated or a heirloom variety, if you wish to call those. Because saving seed from a hybrid, we went through this before. That is 2 or 3 different varieties that has been cross-pollinated together to come up or with a new variety. And by saving those seeds, you never know what's going to come up the next year. So make sure those are heirloom. And if you listen to our podcast much, I preach the keep a journal, and with varieties of what you've planted, make a notation where they are hybrid plants that you decided to try, or did you plant heirloom? With your heirloom varieties, if you had a garden plan, you'll know exactly where you planted the heirlooms, and those will be the ones that you want to keep the seed from, not from the hybrids. Okay.
Yeah, talking about that journal thing too, in the age of smartphones, digital journaling, there's multiple apps out there for that too. Even on your own social media pages, post a picture on your Instagram or something and, take a look at your plant's progress. You can go back and look if you do have issues arising later on. You can go back and look and see where it went wrong. That's a good, taking your pictures along with that journal too is a great help.
It is, and I'm still the old school guy. I forget to do some of that. So I've got the different ones. If you'll go back and look, I showed you several different ones that you can pick up, and they're very inexpensive, something like $8-10. But it gives you a layout for your garden, how you laid it out, what varieties, when you planted, what the weather was, and all of that makes a difference on planting. Maybe you try some new varieties this year, and maybe they didn't work well. But make sure before you blame the soil, seed, or whatever, look back at the weather. Was it extremely hot this year? Was it cooler early on than average? Did we have an earlier frost? So look at all those things before you come to the conclusion this is not a variety I want to plant again next year. Now, if everything was normal, so to speak, and if you're in North Carolina, who knows what that is? I've lived here for almost 72 years, and there is no normal in North Carolina. So, but if it's somewhat what you call a normal year, and that different variety or crop did not produce like you were expecting it to, or like someone else that has tried it and says, well, mine did this, then you may want to try a new variety next year. That's something that you can go ahead and notate in your journal. And when you're looking for those seeds, when they're on sale towards the end of the year, and yes, you can buy them and save them, and that's what we're going to talk about. You saving your own, but also towards the end of the year, you can get those buys on seeds. You can go ahead and put those up too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So your three big things that you're going to be wanting to keep your seeds in, you're going to want to keep your seeds cool. You want to keep them dry, and you want to have a lower humidity there. And the reason you're going to want to keep these dry too, water that's going to create an atmosphere for mold to enter in. And, it's going to rot out your seeds is basically what it's going to do.
Or either try early germination or somewhere you don't want them to germinate.
Right, and then you'll lose everything that you've worked hard trying to save. So where we're kind of sourcing our stuff off of is with Cornell University today. Dad and I were kind of reading along on this morning. They had some good tips. I think, Dad, you've got some of it up there, but they recommend, a lot of people will throw something in a Ziploc bag and want to throw it in there. They recommend using a paper envelope to try to keep that humidity down, or something like a glass jar. And something I saw was cool too, kind of doing some research on it too, is taking a glass jar, putting it in your refrigerator, and using like a desiccant. I can't talk this morning. You were having trouble talking a couple weeks back. Now you've passed it over to me. Yeah, you guys know what I mean. But use that for the first 2 or 3 days to draw that moisture out, take it out, and then put it back in there.
Okay, let me tell you what I do on mine. I've always done this. Now, my grandfather, he always had what we called the pantry, but his pantry wasn't so much for edible food, but it was for his seeds and all above, and he did keep those in the quart jar. Back then, they would put mothballs in there to keep down any insects or anything going along, which that was the way you did it in the old days, but they kept the same varieties going and going again. Also, you save more seed than you need because you shared with people. Sometimes their crop didn't do well, and for the next year, they may have not been able to enjoy that green bean, a certain variety, or corn, or cucumbers, or tomato, whatever, if some of their neighbors hadn't saved extra seed, and so they would still have the chance, because anybody, and you can be a mile down the road, 2 miles down the road, 10 miles down the road, your crops could go through a different part of the weather cycle, and that close does happen. I've seen it more than one time, and your crop could not do as well, or could actually fail. But again, you keep these heirloom seed going as something that you can share. Personally, myself, I like to go through the process, make sure mine's dry. I put in a gallon Ziploc bag. When I do know they're dry, I take a piece of paper, write on there what year that I'm saving these seeds for, or the year that I'm saving them for, and also the variety they are. Zip it tight, push all the air out of it, and throw it in my freezer. Now, there's a lot of times that I'll do that with a gallon bag, because when I got small seeds like bell pepper, or I've got cayenne pepper, or any of the peppers, put that in one. Then I'll do tomato seed, but then you can throw those all into another gallon Ziploc bag, push the air out of that, and just keep them all in one and throw them in your freezer, and they're good to go.
Gotcha.
So, and that's kind of what I like to do. I have had okra seed, for one, it's been over 7-8 years in the freezer. Believe it or not, they did germinate. They came up. So some seeds got more longevity, shelf life in the freezer setting than others. But most seeds, you've got at least 3 years on minimum.
And that's going to depend seed to seed too. Your
It does,
varieties,
yeah.
you could have two different tomato seeds. One's going to last longer than the other one too. That's it really just depends on when they're produced. There's a lot that goes into that. Something might last 2 years, something might last 4 years. It's you get past that year standpoint. There's a lot of variables that goes into that.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. When you start saving your seed, now this is a good time to do it. You're getting ready to harvest, and you do that, and always pick one of your fruits or your vegetables or the part of your herb you're going to save. Make sure you save it from the bigger fruit, the better looking, what I call the perfect looking fruit, and save the seeds from that. Now, some of the things that you can save the seed from that's very easy to do, again, if these are heirloom or open pollinated, is tomatoes, peppers, hot or sweet, whatever the case you have. You could do cucumber seed. You can do okra. You can do green beans. You can do lima beans. You can do sweet peas, early sweet peas, or field peas later on, watermelons, cantaloupes. So just about anything that you're growing, you can save the seed off of, as long as they are out of heirloom seed. Yeah.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because this is something I don't know too much about, because I've never used a whole lot of pelleted seeds. But if you're doing pelleted seeds, they're not going to save like a raw seed would, like a raw heirloom seed would, will they?
Well, pelleteds say something that you buy, and what they know, they've got a coating on them to protect it. I see that does, for a lot of people buy a grass seed one that's like that. I actually like to just take my seed directly from the fruit. And that's just, for example, say a tomato. If you'll slice that tomato and go ahead and take a colander that the holes are smaller than the seeds in, push out that part of the tomato, the little gel part that's got the seeds in it. Take your little spray nozzle off the sink, spray that through the colander till you get your seed. Push those out on a paper towel, a little pie tin. Let them dry for several days there in the house. Usually takes about 8 to 10 days to make sure they're good and dry. And then you can flick them kind of out into that little plastic bag we were talking about with your identification paper with it, and you're good to go. Say if you're doing beans or peas, you want those to get to the stage where the outside of the hull is starting to dry on the vine. Go ahead and bring those in, shell them out. Make sure that you get all good. You don't want anything with an insect bite on the seed itself. Take and again, spread those out where they can get air. Let them fully dry. And again, that's going to take 8 to 10 days minimum. And then go ahead and put those in that bag like we were talking about. Push the air out, Ziploc them tight with your identification tag in them, and go.
Yeah, and if you're a beginner gardener, kind of like myself, you kind of got both ends of the podcast here. You got a master expert gardener, and you got somebody that's just getting into it. Something to remember too, these seeds have to be dry before you start doing any of this stuff. And a good way to check that is like doing a bend test on it. If it's still bending, it's still going to have a little bit of moisture in it. You want to get it. You can listen for that snap. I want to use one of them as a test subject, and make sure it's fully dry before you get all the way through starting this process.
Yeah,
too.
That's a good way to do it. And also, let's just say when we're talking about the longevity of seed, we were doing that a while ago.
Your viability and your germination, that's going to decline over time too. So that's going to lose, a certain percentage each year. Your viability is going to go down, and your germination rate is going to go down each year. When you get closer, we were talking about tomatoes, you have that 3-year mark. As the closer it gets to that 3 years, you're going to lose a little bit more each year. So you want to try to use them sooner rather than later.
And a good way to test that is, let's just say, okay, in the back of the freezer, I had some green bean seed. And, I'll let those sit in here for 4 years or for 5. There's a good way to do that. Pull those out before planting them in the garden. And you can actually take a warm paper towel. You can put the seeds in there. out on your counter or in a pie pan. Cover them up, get them good and wet. Then keep them moist, and then in so many days they should germinate. Well, a good way to do that is let's put out 10 seed. All right, if 8 seed come up, 2 doesn't germinate, but 8 does, then you've got an 80% germination. So you'll know that you plant your row just a little heavier so you can get the amount to come up that you want. Now, if you'll look on the back of most of your seed packs, it gives you a germination rate. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly the system they test this with. And you see something, okay, I've got a 95% germination rate. All right, that means that 95% or 9.5 of the seeds that they tested come up or germinated. Whereas you may see something that's got an 85 or an 80%. That means that exactly what it says, 8 out of 10 of the seeds germinated. So you can check these seeds to make sure they're still good before you take the time to plant them in your garden, and then, they didn't come up. So just to give you an idea here on vegetable seeds, there are different amounts of things going on here. It's just like carrots are good for 3 to 4 years in the freezer type situation. Cauliflower's 4 to 5. Cucumber 3 to 6. Eggplant 4 to 5 years. You've got kale that's 3 to 5, and so on and so on. And I actually pulled the list off of here that I like, and I've seen some other ones too, so you can use other ones. But you've got a company called Johnny Select Seeds, and I have bought a lot from Johnny's over the years. It's a good place to buy heirloom seeds. Johnny's Select Seeds is actually owned. It's an employee-owned company. They have a big variety. It might be somewhere you just want to look. And no, I don't get paid anything for Johnny Select Seeds. It just happens to be one of my individual favorites.
They should pay you over all you've sent over the years to them.
Yeah. But they actually, if you go and look, they've got, gives you this chart on there, and it does a wonderful job. If you'll just go on there and look at it, it gives you an idea on that. So if you go on the Cornell site and the Johnny Select Seed site, Cornell gives you a good way of preparing and how to prepare and what to do. And then if you go here in longevity, you can go back to the Johnny site, which is a good one too. Now there's more than just that, but it gives you an idea. And another thing, guys, seeds, if you start your own transplants or you do your own planting, really doesn't take up that much room in your freezer. I mean, you basically, if you're doing raised beds or whatever, it doesn't take that many seed, but go ahead and save some extra, because we talked about, if you listened last week, how that we can do more than one crop per year here in North Carolina.
Yep. And something too off that Cornell article that we were reading this morning. I didn't know this, but some of you like certain herbs and like a lot of seeds out of the onion families. You're looking around at a lot of those, like your leeks, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They lose 50% per year of their germination rate. So they lose quick.
Right.
And I didn't know that. I thought that was kind of interesting that they lost that germination rate that quick.
Yeah, onions is one thing. If you're going to start an onion slip, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. Instead of using a bulb or what we call the onion set, if you're going to do that and save the seed, I would recommend that is one family, yes, that you don't save over more than 1 year, because you're going to lose the germination rate on that very, very quickly.
Yeah, and they were talking like certain herb varieties too. Didn't have a whole lot of time to read more into the herb varieties. I haven't done a whole lot of herb gardening myself. That's something I'm looking forward to getting more into. But I just thought that was a neat little addition they put in there.
I grow a lot of sage, and the perennial sage is something I like, just your regular sage. And there's different types of sage too, guys. But I grow a lot of that, and because I like to use it in a lot of pork and different ways, and even in chicken. save the leaves, and that's for another story. But anyway, that's a good perennial. They come back year after year, and they put on a lot of seed. A little small seed, looks about like a small lettuce seed or a turnip seed, little round seed. And but I do know that they do hold their capabilities of germination. I know I've had them 3 years, and they've germinated fine. So these are just some of the things you can look at. And these are things you want to go ahead and test. And that's another thing you want to make sure that you save more than what you think you're going to need. Go ahead and at least save double that amount. And in case you do have a germination problem. Or maybe a frost comes by and kills your plants or whatever, you've got some backups. That's the way you do that.
And if it works out, best case scenario, then hey, you got something you can give your neighbor, give to a family member. Gardening is a good way, and it's as expensive as it is as a hobby, it's still relatively inexpensive compared to other hobbies too. Like Dad and I were into automotive stuff, and that'll break you quick. But that's a good way, good gift there. You can get an inexpensive gift that you can give somebody, and it means a lot to people that are in the gardening community to get seeds that were saved versus something they have to go out and buy. That means a lot to people.
Yeah, and I was just looking here at certain varieties. Tomatoes, you can go from 3 to 7 years on those. Watermelons, 4 to 5. I'm going to give you spinach, 1 to 5 years. And again, that's a different variety of spinaches. You're looking at radishes, and some of these are your cold weather crops, but you're looking 4 to 5 years on them. So you can save those. Let those radishes go on up and make seed. They make a little seed pod. It's easy to do. You've got, I don't know how many people do, but you've got mixed greens. That's what I like. I always mix my turnips and mustards and leafy greens together and all, but you take mustard. They're about 4 years on those. Lettuce, believe it or not, you've got different types of lettuce. You can go ahead and save those seeds, and they're usually good, depending on the variety, from 2 to 6 years. So it's something different. But anyway, that kind of gives you an idea on saving seed. Again, you want to make sure where those pods are just about dry. If it's something that has a seed in the pod, if you're going for tomato, for the cucumber, you want to make sure that they're fully ripened, and cut those open. Use the colander trick on there. The same thing with cantaloupe. When you take the seed part out of a cantaloupe, if you're cutting it fresh to eat, you can go ahead and wash out all of that, pull the seed back. But again, make sure that is an heirloom variety. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of giving you just a quick overview. You know that you can go if you've got a question.
Yep. Definitely leave us comments. And something I thought about this morning too. If you're listening, throw us a comment and tell us where you're listening from. What state that you're in, what area you're in. And, if you got a little bit of time you want to share, if you're from a different region from, the Piedmont of North Carolina and the Carolinas, Southeast, Virginia here. If you're in a different region from us, tell us something that you're doing differently in your garden that we might not be doing here. We're trying to build a good community here of gardeners and stuff here. Obviously we're both employed by Daddy Pete Farms here, but, we're here to share gardening knowledge. We're not just here pushing our products. We're here to talk about the truth, talk about good gardening tips, and, every little bit of input, real world input, that helps us out too. So, build a community. Let's, listen from our listeners here.
And I'm going to say this too. I'm going to put this out on the podcast, and hopefully that somebody will respond to this. I'm a stickler and have been for the old variety seeds. And I've lost one variety of seed, and I can't hardly find it anymore. And it used to be very prevalent in eastern Tennessee, up in the mountains of North Carolina, here in the Piedmont. And it was a bush green bean. It was an early variety, flat bean variety. The seed on it's kind of flat and an olive color. And the only name I knew it by was it was a Tennessee early green pod. Now, there's some named that out there, but they have like a white seed, and they're not a flat bean. And these Tennessee early green pods that I had up until here, probably 15 years ago when finally mine went south and I didn't have any for the next year, was put you more in the style of aroma, flat bean, only they wasn't as wide, but they were flat, smaller. Again, they had a flat olive colored seed to them. So if anybody has any of those or knows where I can get them, I would appreciate an email on those. And if you're looking for a certain seed, shoot us that in on our question. We'd love to do that. Put it on our podcast.
Yeah, drop us a comment, subscribe, and keep up, and we'll try to answer you and get back to you.
We'll put it out there and see if we can help find them, because like I say, that's the reason we save these older varieties, because if we don't save them, one of these days they're going to be gone.
Yep.
For sure. Well, listen, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today, and we've enjoyed it. Again, make sure that you do subscribe to our podcast and go to our webpage, daddyfeast.com.
Yep, and you'll see the link there for, it'll take you to Podbean, which will then take you to all the other platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Prime, wherever you're listening to your podcast, check us out. We're on pretty much all the major streaming platforms. So,
yep. Go to YouTube, check us out there.
Yep. So leave comments, subscribe. Every little bit of engagement, like we were talking about earlier, is going to help us build up this community, and we can just answer more questions, get more information out there to everybody. So that's what we're here for.
Yep. And your expertise matters too. So go ahead and send us your comment and your question, and we'll get on it. Well, until next time, you've been listening to Gardening with Daddy Pete. I'm Melvin York.
And I am Jay York. Thank you guys for tagging along with us today.